Welcome to my second video in this Immortal chess game series. So we're looking at the greats, we're looking at the fantastic, we're looking at the brilliant games that have gone down in history for some reason or other. Now this game here is, it's a very interesting game, and it has been coined the Immortal Draw game. Now you might be thinking, a draw? How can that be interesting? Draws? They're not interesting. It's only interesting when someone wins. Well, take a look at this game. It's completely crazy. It starts with the Vienna opening with knight to c3. And I should mention the two players of this game. We had Karl Hamp with the white pieces and Philipp Meitner with the black pieces. A game was played in 1872, and one of the things to really watch out for in the course of this game is the attacks, counterattacks, counterattacks, and they both actually play quite well in this game. Normally, these Immortal games, you have one side kind of rolling over and dying a bit too early, but that's not necessarily the case here. Black now plays bishop to c5. And in this position, white plays a slight mistake. I mean, of course, there are going to be mistakes. They're not computers, these players. He plays knight to a4. Now, this move is a bit weird because you're putting the knight offside on a square where it only has one threat to attack the bishop. And had black been in a, should we say, sensible mood, he could have just played bishop e7, and I think this knight looks ridiculous. But now black had the opportunity to play bishop takes f2, and who can resist such a romantic notion as this, bringing the white king out into the open of the board. Obviously white has to take that piece, and the point now is queen to h4 check. And this is really taking advantage of the white knight being on a4, because if g3, which looks fairly sensible, queen takes e4, threatens the rook and threatens the knight. And in this situation, black will win a nice bit of material. So what else can white do? Well, he can't go king to f3, because this move is going to run into a check here. And after king e2, there's a queen e4 check with similar ideas against the knight. So there's only one move. The king has to bravely stand into the middle of the board. King to e3. Brave king. And it's all about this brave king, I'll tell you. Black continues. Queen to f4, chasing the king further into the middle. And now in typical fashion, because the white king is in a very uncomfortable situation, black needs to open up the position, bring more pieces into the attack. And there's one move that does this brilliantly. Pawn to d5, with the idea the bishop maybe coming to f5, opening up the king even more, using the two black pawns, and even trying to open up the queen. So a very good multifunctional move. And here, I believe white defended well. White played king to c3, trying to run further away. It's giving him a lot of resources that queen to e1 would have been a better move, defending that pawn. But there's one incredibly crazy variation here which I just have to share with you. Knight to f6, black keeps developing, threatening to take the pawn, and now a natural move would be g3, trying to force that queen away. Pawn takes e4 check, king to c3, and now this queen has to move. Queen to g4, and now the idea behind g3, bishop to h3. And this looks to be very good because white's going to win another piece, and there's not really much attacking that black king, but now there's a fantastic variation. Knight to d5 check. And of course the king doesn't really want to venture up the board, so king to b3 looks most natural. And now look at this move. Knight to c6. And these two little mischief makers, the knights on c6 and d5, can gain a draw. After bishop takes g4, black is a queen and a piece down, so it's kind of time to bail out for a draw. Knight to a5 check. The king only has one square as these three squares are covered. King to a3, and now knight to c4 check. and the knight jumps backwards and forwards, giving a perpetual. A very pretty and beautiful perpetual there, and it's lines and variations like this that really show us the joy of chess. These are sort of mystical fantasy variations where the pieces can dance in a somewhat beautiful manner. This line did not occur. After d5, white played king to c3. Black now played queen takes e4, threatening the knight, and the queen is now in a very good place. Black has 2 pawns. Maybe white should have played d4 here. This would have been a more sensible idea. But king to b3 is a very logical move. Defending the knight, trying to run further away. Look at that king. He's off his head. He's off his head, that king. Oh yes, he is. And now knight to a6. And this threatens queen to b4 checkmate. And in some cases, this knight might have potential to come to c5. So a3 is now played, and around here I'm pretty sure white must be feeling quite confident, because white has the a2 square and the king has done the tour of the world, a little bit like Phileas Fogg, going around the world in 60 days. But now comes a thunderbolt. Queen takes a4 check, and I mentioned this knight on a6. Look how good this knight becomes. That has to be taken, otherwise white is just material down. Knight to c5 check. Whoa! King to b4. Trying to keep the king as near to the own half as possible. Venturing up the board would have run into some crazy lines with, the fantastic knight to e7 move here. Point being, after king takes c5, black now plays a5. And these pawns, look what they do. They stop the white king from retreating. So that poor white king is running around naked in his enemy's, basically in his enemy's part of the board. And you really need to put some clothes on, king. You're going to get very cold over there. So the king goes to b4, and a5 check occurs anyway. And this is similar. Well, after king takes c5, it's actually precisely the same. Why can't the king go to c3? Well, because of d4 check, king c4, bishop e6 check. And in this position, black has better development than he actually does in the actual game. Because in the actual game, king takes c5, knight to e7, at least this bishop on c8 hasn't joined in the affair. And there is a deadly threat here. Can you see the deadly threat? Well, let's say white plays knight to f3. The deadly threat is b6 check. These pawns doing that job again of covering the retreat squares for the king. King to b5, bishop to d7, wham bam, thank you, king. So bishop b5 check comes, and at this moment it looks really like white is gone. Because after king d8, b6 checkmate is a very hard move to defend against. But all credit to white, who finds the only defence in the position. Again, pause if you want to try and find the defence. The defence is, there's only one way, bishop to c6. Really, really lovely. And the game is so wacky, but the point is now the king wants to run back on the light squares. Run all the way to a2. So b6 check is very natural, and the king starts running. But now knight takes c6, and if the king tries to run any more, knight d4 with bishop d7 or b5 checkmate is going to leave a rather sour taste in the white king's mouth. So the king has to take that knight, and, well, it gets more and more beautiful. Bishop b7 check. Fantastic move, getting the draw. The point being, if white takes that bishop, black can play king to d7, threatening rook to b8 checkmate. What a weird position. Queen to g4 check, but just king to d6. Hello, I'm coming for you. Rook b8 checkmate. So king b5 was played, and now bishop a6 check, king c6, bishop b7 check, and they agreed a draw. Now you may be wondering in this position, why can't white continue with his run with king to a4? Well, can you see why? You've got to control the square the white king wants to run to, and play bishop c4, b5 checkmate is unstoppable. So the game ends in this absolutely fantastic draw, and that is why this game, as you can clearly see, has been called the Immortal Draw. So, Immortal game, hence why I picked the Immortal background, a bit of space that you can, look at the stars in. I think it sits very well with this game, and I took a lot of joy when I first saw that game, and I hope I have shared some of the joy of that fantastic game with you, and there'll be more in this series to come, so keep your eyes peeled.